a little mow without the bag. Growth has slowed down enough that I'm not using the bag right now because I'm lazy. After the mow, I can clearly see that I should have bagged the clippings because there are a few too many for my liking, but I think not enough for it to actually be a concern. Plus I've got a lot of birds around in the area and they'll make their nests from this. But just busy cutting new edge here for my garden bed, and I want to show you something pretty interesting. Alright, so I watered the grass last about, what is today, Wednesday. I watered it on Monday, so 2-ish days ago. Still holding fairly well as far as damp goes. This piece here already split up. What I want to show you firstly is 0 thatch layer, and that I believe is because I'm not adding organic matter to the surface. If I keep adding organic stuff to the surface, like I said, we'll just, plain old lawn dressing, which is mostly organic, you're going to end up, or compost and that kind of thing, you're going to end up increasing your thatch layer, the size of the thatch layer. But if you look here, it's all roots, and then you can see me tugging it, goes right up through to the plant at the top, and can't really show you here properly. There's no actual thatch layer. This is that dry sort of stalky part of the bottom of the plant, and even that's less than 1 centimeter, which is perfect. The rest of the ground here is looking quite nice against the bed. The deeper you go, it just goes to sand. And then here's some rhizome trying its luck. That's how that gets into the bed. But yeah, this never used to be like this, even up here a year ago. So you can see all the root system in there. It's absolutely spot on. They're nice and white. There's no funky stuff. It's also another thing you can look for, is if you've got like a weird discoloration on the roots, you've got a bit of trouble. But if I break this all up, roots are good. Everything's looking like a... So yeah, there's my current soil profile. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, yeah, very good root system. This is, I'd say, about 10 to 15 centimeters that I pulled out here, more like 10. And these roots go down to about 30 centimeters, this root type system here. And here's a piece where I just broke off that, where the actual sword is itself, so the turf section. And you can see that rhizome is perfectly fine in there. They're growing pretty shallow, close to the surface. So yeah, I think there's more of an indication there that you just shouldn't be trying to add to the thatch layer, because then you're going to end up with more rhizome density. It's going to make more thatch, if I could term it like that. Actual good old proper thatch, which is not what you want. This is what you want, and this is a great example because that's kikuyu, and you can see how lacquer, not that I'm holding in the right place, you can see how nice that rhizome is, and there's a good root structure from it. So possibly the plant is finding that it doesn't need to push as much rhizome because it's got enough sword density. Remember, we have been using products to increase sword density, to thicken up the surface. The plant's going to run on the surface in the form of the stolon, so the runner on the top. The rhizome underneath will only get there after time, but it won't need to have as much of a dense rhizome system if it's a good root system from having the stolon develop and take shape, and a big enough root system will develop underneath it, and that will cause more plant to grow basically on the surface as well. So yeah, I think we've just got into a good sword density. There's a nice rhizome for you guys looking for it. Right here. And while we are at it, I've just shown you what it looks like under the turf. And remember, this is now where I've been treating with, I contribute the majority of this to SupaWett, because, and you would have heard me say it in previous videos, like the most valuable thing that I can think of that's cheap and easy to get your hands on is a good penetrative wetting agent. And I just want to show you, this is what the ground looks like. It's the same ground on the surface, full of weeds and stuff. This is that bed that I need to sort out. But this is what it is. The bed never gets, well, this one's never got SupaWett. So I'll basically spray SupaWett up until about here maximum. There's an indication of it. Leave this for long enough, it'll continue to become sandy. Find a way to to help water penetrate, and you'll be helping nature take its course. It will help with all the biodegradation that needs to happen, and you let the plant help you work, so you have to do less invasive processes. Enough chit chat, let's carry on cutting away this edge. Here's another little example of how well SupaWett works. So I'm currently in this little walkway grass area that's up here near my messy bed. All of that up to about here is perfect, easy to get through, well saturated, still kind of, it's got the damp look, deep. Okay, to some of the areas I'm digging are 20 plus centimeters deep, and they are fully wet, and there's been no rain, so that's all manual irrigation, so it is certainly penetrating. However, that's from down there somewhere. If I start to move, now the sun's in the wrong place to help me here. If I get to here, I don't know if you can see it properly in the video. Let me try and move my hand here so it focuses differently. You can clearly mostly tell that that is bone dry. Okay, so there's a bit of a closer shot. You can clearly tell that the same type of soil, just not looked after in the same way, is very different. Just a 30-50 centimeter mark away, there's the other soil, spot on, well saturated. And then the closer I get around the bend, let me just undo that thing. Then the further I get down the bend, which is closer to the main section of the lawn, which gets all the treatment stuff, that is way easier to get through and way better saturated after that last watering. So by me looking after that depth properly, which is wetting agent in particular, that is helping keep this grass green for longer, and of course helping establish a very nice deep root system. And you can actually tell that this used to be a pretty healthy earthworm zone because of this. These are all earthworms castings, and that's dried up over time. So when it was raining, this area was just as healthy as that area, which is why I would never have picked it up. It's also a little bit shady up here, etc. So it would have maintained a bit more of a moist feel about it, whereas this would have dried out more. So of course I applied more product in this section, but the effects are, because the product is there, it's done a lot better. Okay, as you can see from this end, it's currently 12 o'clock, and for you guys in your Kikuyu shade, stop your nonsense, sort your stuff out. It is a feeding issue or something else that is causing your grass to thin out too much. But anyway, this is kind of my lawn in winter, mostly in shade like this up until about 2 p.m. then it gets a bit more sun. Okay, so for what I was going to do for today's video was just wet, maybe get stuck into the bed, but I don't think I'm going to finish with the bed today because it's actually quite a lot of work, and I don't want to cart away the good soil that's there. So I want to try and fish out, just let it all settle first, then I'm going to fish out all the dead grass, well, not dead grass, currently alive grass, fish it all out, throw that away, keep the good soil in the bed, and then when we redo the bed we've at least got something to work with. I don't have to keep adding. So right now the plan was just to do SupaWett, just drench the whole yard, but I'm not going to, because just doing these little top-ups clearly seem to be working. So what I am going to do is I'm going to do a drench in those beds before I start working in them. So let's say by the weekend when I want to work in the beds, I'm going to have an easier time working in the beds in the first place, and then it will hopefully help all my flowers and things in the bed do better during winter and spring. But I think what I'm going to do that is not part of the plan is I'm going to put down Voema Calmag today with the SupaWett on the main lawn area here, because I think it's approaching the 2-week mark from when I did Voema Veg with only K, SupaWett and Natural Kelp Plus. So today I think I can do just Voema Calmag by itself. A couple of days early, You should be spacing these things about 2 weeks apart. And then what we'll do is in winter, when it's really a stressful time, we're going to go to weekly application. So every single weekend, basically, you'll put down an alternating product, so something different, but every weekend at much smaller volumes, especially nitrogen, much smaller volumes. Then we're going to add a little bit more iron. When I say more, not more in one go, more doses of smaller amounts of iron. And that should sustain us. It'll give us a bit more of a plateaued effect, longer carry without overstressing the plant for as long as possible through winter, and hopefully coming out of winter we've chowed a lot of thatch by keeping the soil healthy, and then we can tackle spring nicely. Let's see what happens. Okay, one of the best things that you can actually do before doing a drench is wet the area first and then let it sit for sort of 30 minutes or so at least. The longer the better. So I know that I watered days ago here. That's still damp, so I can just go ahead here for its application, but this is clearly not right. So I'm going to wet this area first, and then I'll go ahead and spray the rest of the yard, and then I'll come back here and give this its own drench, just with SupaWett. Okay, now we're just going to drench that bed now. I've done basically what will equate to the 30 ml per 100 square meter of SupaWett, and any amount of water. The objective is drench. So I've wetted first, we're now going to apply the product, and then I'm going to water it as much as what I can until I see pooling sort of happening, and then I'll stop when the pooling is subsided or saturated. I'll go and wet it again a little bit later, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, whenever I feel like it. Cool, let's do it. Okay, and if you weren't sure, these are the two products. Voema Calmag, which is a calcium magnesium product, just has a bit of nitrogen, well, a relatively healthy dose of nitrogen as well, so that's going to help with green. And it contains aminos as well, which is quite nice. And then SupaWett, which is the penetrative wetting agent, not just any old wetting agent or a surfactant, it is a proper penetrant. So that's the right stuff to get that good saturation in your soil. Alrighty, so that's it. Mow kind of a drench in the flower bed at least. Voema Calmag, SupaWett got down. SupaWett, good drench for the flower beds, and yeah, we'll just keep doing our thing to make sure that the grass stays as healthy as possible, not induce too much growth from now until the end of winter. Remember, as soon as you want to induce growth, then it's going to be this combination between nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. That combination is what's going to cause vegetative growth. It's driven in grass by nitrogen, so when you overdo the nitrogen, you force growth at a time that the grass doesn't want to grow, and that's when you start to induce disease, and you make it very easy for pests to nail the grass. So yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, found it useful. If so, please give it a thumbs up and make sure that you subscribe, and please hit the little notification bell so that you're reminded every time I put up a new video. And that's it. Get the stuff on Backyard Bushveld too. Cheers. Oh, and one more important point is that you know that I do measure my water, rain, and what I'm putting down. And right now I'm currently doing about 3 mils per session twice a week. So rough 6. Sometimes I push 10 mils if I feel that it's been a little bit hot and windy, because you're going to have a lot of evapotranspiration, so you need to add more water. But yeah, 6 to 10 mils a week is all that I'm doing at this point in time, and that's with no rain.